It's time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by PSE Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Scent Blocker,
Killer Food Plots,
Cabela's,
Spot Shooters,
Antler Action,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls,
and Badass Slingshots.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal. Everybody, your host Mike Adams, sitting here with Dan Jasa on the back porch.
We're not really sitting because we're actually up north.
We're pre-recording. We're pre-recording this episode from the back deck of the UNJ studio, but yeah, in all reality, you're up north and so am I.
Right, exactly.
So what are you doing up north right now?
You know what? This episode is going to come out next Monday, so I will hopefully make it back across the bridge the night before.
Oh, that's going to be a nightmare.
They estimate on each side of the bridge there could be up to 4,000 cars in line.
No, thank you.
I don't care what you tell me
I don't
about.
care if I'm the first car. I don't want to sit there for 4 hours.
Oh, this is what I thought. Can you imagine you're driving up, right? You're coming down. It's almost 6:30, and all of a sudden the powers that be drop. We'll say they drop a barricade, and you're the first car.
Yeah.
And they say, nope, can't go till noon now.
They picked it, and Danny's sitting there.
Right. No, you know what? I don't care how much water you provide me, what bathroom you provide me. I'm sorry, 4,000 cars at noon.
No way. Well, look at it this way. If you're the first car in line, you're heading south, you got a clean shot for probably a couple hundred miles before you see another car.
Yeah, you gotta wait. We gotta wait 5.5 hours to get there.
Right. So,
but you know, it's they're doing it for security.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. But
so if you're one of them people in line, you're listening to the podcast, I hope they're listening to our show in that time sitting there. We feel sorry for you sitting there. We're sorry, but you should have left earlier.
Right. Exactly. Like I am the day before getting back under the bridge.
So,
but you know what? It's getting to be about that time. I got to get up there, get some food plots started. Mm-hmm. My logging project is over. We'll talk on a later show that I have the plan written by the forester.
Right.
So after September 1st, I should know more about whether we're signing up for the plan and whatnot.
Okay. Well, you know what? We've got three segments already recorded. We're talking about getting ready for hunting season with your bow, with your gear, getting in tune with everything for bow season.
Absolutely. We talked,
Dan Jasa.
Dan Jasa, talked, the one segment was tip to nock about arrows.
Yeah, and the other segment was about how to pick a spot on a deer and shoot without there being spots on a deer.
Isn't that ingenious, a paper bag?
Yeah. So, and actually, why don't we just kick it off to that first segment there, and we're going to let these next three segments just kind of roll along, and we will rejoin you at the end, and we're going to give you our tips on getting ready for bow season here at the end of the show. So, without further ado, here's Dan Jasa.
Sitting out under the tent here at Bowfest 2017. Been a good day, Dan?
It's been an excellent day. Hey, can you beat August and 75 degrees, sunny, and no humidity?
I felt like I should have been in a tree stand.
Oh, you know what? An early October day is just about what this would be.
Exactly. Speaking of tree stand and being at Bowfest, August, been shooting the bow, getting ready for the upcoming archery season. We got Dan Jasa here from PSE with us. And, Dan, you give a seminar today talking about how to execute and practice executing a shot on a deer when you don't have an actual mark to shoot. Talk a little bit and run through kind of what you were talking about. I know people can't see it here, but explain what you were talking about.
Yeah, so you spend all year shooting at dots, and I'm sure most guys, whenever they go out there, they buy a bag target, it's got dots on it, they're going to shoot at the dots. Well, obviously, whenever you're out in the woods, a deer does not have a dot to aim at.
I've seen.
It'd be nice, but so me as a target shooter, I've always had a hard time aiming when I don't have something to aim at.
Right.
So Dan McCarthy came up or talked about this thing one time where he takes a paper bag, a brown paper bag, crumples it up, and then flattens it out on whatever target you're shooting. It gives you enough definition where you can pick something out to aim at, but there's not a definite aiming spot to aim at. So it teaches you to kind of know where an area is or where you want to hit and keep your pin on that area instead of trying to hard focus aim on a dot.
Gotcha. So, like, maybe a tuft of hair that might be a little different color or...
Yep, a crease. If they're walking and they stop and they got that front foot forward, the little crease from the leg that goes up into the shoulder right where you want want to put your pin and get a heart shot. It's just a easy way to pick out something in an area and aim on an area instead of aiming at a hard outline dot.
So taking something like that, you just pin it onto the bail or onto the target that you're normally shoot at.
Yep.
And would you shoot multiple arrows at that same spot, trying to hit that spot?
I mean,
how do you do that?
once you kind of have an arrow in a spot, then you've got something you're going to aim at. So
right.
Typically, if I'm like getting ready to go out and go out and go hunting, I'll only shoot one arrow at every distance, and then I'll take my brown paper bag that's all crumpled up. 20 yards, I'll pick out a spot and shoot at that, and then I'll walk a little bit and pick out where I want to shoot next, and then pick a whole other spot to shoot at.
Okay.
Just so you're not aiming at a hard outline dot or a hard outline figure that you're trying to hit.
Okay, and that helps you to just get through that shot sequence and focus on, like you said, not a spot, but a spot, kind of.
Yep. I mean, even if you're picking out a crease on a deer, your pin's going to be big enough it's going to cover it up, but you know the area you want to hit.
Right on. Now, when you start practice for season, do you do elevated shooting as well, like mimicking a tree stand, and how do you go through that?
I try to. Where I used to live, we had a field course. I had a decent amount of elevation to it, so I had places where I could go and shoot on angles just to get my body used to doing it. If you don't have that kind of stuff, I mean, even just standing on a picnic table and shooting 2 or 3 yards downhill, like putting a bag target below where you're shooting, just to get your body used to being in that awkward body position. Bending, making sure you're keeping a good T-form, and you're not just dropping your arm and keeping your shoulders level. Just so your body gets used to being in that position and you know what it feels like. So if a 200-inch buck walks out and it's right below your stand and you got to aim at that, you're like, oh my God, my body's never been in this position before. What do I do? And you get freaked out and you end up punching the trigger and missing the deer.
Right.
Just so your body knows what it feels like to be in that position.
Is that probably one of the biggest mistakes guys make, and gals, is bending at the waist versus dropping that arm when they're in a tree stand? Is that a common mistake?
You hear a lot of guys, I shot over the top of them. It's like, okay, did you bend that? Did you bend at the waist, or did you just drop your arm? Because as soon as you drop your arm, all your anchor points in your face are going to change, and more than likely your peep's going to go out the top of your sight, and you're going to shoot over the top of whatever you're shooting at.
Okay, so that's a good way to tell if you're trying to practice shooting from a stand and you're shooting high, that's something to look at, definitely, if you're bending at the waist or dropping that arm. Okay, gotcha. What's another common mistake that guys make when practicing for the season, or maybe in the stand when they're shooting, or if it's on ground level with archery? What's one thing you see people making a lot of mistakes on?
I think the biggest thing is like standing at one distance and just trying to pound one spot.
Okay.
So subconsciously, in your mind, you always want to hit whatever you're aiming at, right? So if you shoot your first arrow and you're 3 inches low, subconsciously you're going to try to make a correction for the next shot. Even if that's not exactly where the pin is going to be, it's going to make you aim a little bit different than when you did before.
Right.
So what I try to do is when I get close to the season and I really want to make sure my one shot counts, I'll only shoot one arrow at a distance, and then I'll move, and then I'll shoot another arrow at a distance, then I'll move. Just to make sure that you're not getting in a letting your subconscious take over to make your arrows hit the middle when you're really not sighted in where you think you are.
Speaking of aiming, explain the difference between aiming on the ground and aiming from an elevated stand.
As far as
what should you do differently?
So if you were to take a picture of yourself at full draw, stand on level ground, basically what you're going to do is take that from basically the shoulders up and rotate your body so your arm is pointing down at the ground. That's the position you want to be in. So if you end up changing that T position, you're going to end up changing the whole way your body mechanics work as you fire that arrow.
Do you aim lower when you're in a tree stand, higher in a tree stand,
so,
the same?
For the most part nowadays, on shots that are within 30 or 40 yards, your rangefinder is going to end up being pretty dang close if you have angle compensation, if that's what you're asking about. Yep. So, I mean, on like, say, a 25-degree shot at 20 yards, you're looking at maybe a 10% cut, which is like 2 yards. If you're pretty close at 20 yards, 2 yards is not going to be that big of a difference. Exactly. So, I mean, yes, it will impact differently if you were aiming at a dot, but you're aiming at either a heart or lungs. It's not going to make that much of a difference from that far.
On a white-tailed deer, it's not that much of a difference.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, good. I wanted that explained.
When we're talking practicing, 99% of the time, especially during the middle of the summer, we're practicing with field points. When it gets time to start climbing into a stand, we go out, we buy our new broadheads, And we always hear people talk about, well, do they fly like a field point? How do you go through that setup and getting your arrows to fly with broadheads ready for season?
Typically, that starts whenever you first start setting the bow. If you can get your bow either really, really good paper tuned or bare shaft tuned, most of the time, all your quote-unquote fly like a field point broadheads will be pretty dang close. But that's the start of it. But no matter what you do, I always tell people, even if it has a practice head, shoot the actual broadhead you're going to shoot with the actual blade you're going to shoot. At least practice with, have one, you get a package of 3, pull out one and actually shoot the physical broadhead that is meant to kill an animal, because sometimes the practice heads don't always fly like the actual heads.
Right.
Just the tolerances and how the blades are made even a little bit of difference can make a big difference at 40 yards on a bow that's not tuned very well.
Right. Now, Danny, he shoots mechanicals majority of the time, and I shoot fixed blade. When we're talking about those two, the difference between the two in flying like a field point, is there anything that we should be paying particular attention to between those two?
Even a mechanical will have some planing effect if it has any kind of exposed blade.
Okay.
So a Rage, T3, anything that has any kind of exposed blade, if your bow's not tuned properly, will plane to some effect. Now, it won't plane as much as a fixed blade will, or like a big cut-on contact blade will, but it still will plane. So even though they quote-unquote fly like a field point, if your bow was way out of tune, they're not going to fly like a field point.
Right. Okay. Now, let's back up just a little bit. You're talking about bare shaft tuning and paper tuning. For a guy who wants to go out and buy box arrows, get them cut, get out and start shooting, and he's like, okay, well, bare shaft, okay, we're talking with no vanes on this. How does a guy go through something like that and then maybe not comfortable building vanes on them after the fact?
You don't have to bare shaft tune. I was just throwing that out as that's one way to tune a bow. Typically, whenever I paper tune, I'll start real close. Start at 3 feet. Make sure you know which direction the arrow is going out of the bow. Once you get that corrected, where it's coming straight out of the bow at 3 feet, I keep continually backing up, because there could be a point where you're getting an oscillation in the arrow where it's going through, even though it's either wagging side to side or up and down. You get where it's going to go through the paper straight.
Right.
So paper tuning at multiple distances, and usually I like to end up about I'd say 6 or 7 yards.
Okay.
If you get a really clean hole at 6 or 7 yards and all the way up into 3, you're pretty much going to make sure that arrow is coming straight out of the bow, and you're not going to get any plane effect once you screw on a broadhead.
Okay. And that'd be with vanes or without, either way?
Yeah, with vanes or without. Yep.
Okay. All right.
What's the importance of a nock? You've got the front end, you've got the shaft, you've got the vanes. Is there any importance to a nock that you might use or don't use?
Most everyone makes pretty good nocks. The big thing on the nock into the arrow is making sure you have proper nock fit to the string, making sure it's either not too loose where the arrow's going to wiggle side to side. If you put it on the string and grab it and twist it side to side, make sure there's not too much side to side play there, or making sure it's not too tight where it's almost wanting to pull your nocks out of the arrow when you're shooting it, because any of that stuff you're shooting through paper, you're going to see weird things, and then you may be trying to fix something that isn't really there.
Right. And
the other big thing I do with arrows on the back end is make sure I get a arrow squaring device of some kind and square the back end of the arrows.
Okay, so the nock is square.
Yep.
To the butt end of the arrow.
Yep. So I always square the back end and the front end to make sure everything is perfectly 90 degrees if the shaft is straight to one another.
Okay. Any consideration towards a lighted nock? Something that you think we need to be aware of?
I haven't shot lighted nocks just for the simple fact you're going to be throwing extra weight in the back end of your arrow.
Right.
Some of the lighted nocks could be as much as 30 or 40 grains heavier than what your actual nock is. So if you're going to shoot them, make sure you get enough where you can throw them in your arrows and practice with them too, and figure out, okay, am I getting different point of impacts at different distances, or even shooting them through paper. You could get different paper tears if you're using different nocks, maybe just because the throat size is different.
So definitely, whatever you're going to be shooting in the field, that's what you want to be tuning the bow with before you get out in the field.
Yes, we're going out to do a brutal thing and kill an animal, but at the same point, you want it to be as quick and as ethical as possible. So I feel like you owe it to every animal you pursue to make sure you do everything to make sure you're going to put an ethical shot on whatever you're going after.
Absolutely. As well as getting out and spending the time and practicing as much as you should.
Yep.
All right. Dan, you got anything else you want to ask?
I think we've covered the arrow from front to back. Oh, Speaking of arrow, what about your insert? Is there any consideration maybe adding weight to the insert, different insert, or just going with the standard insert that came with the arrows?
I mean, typically you're going to be pretty safe putting in the insert that comes with the arrow. I know there's a big push to go really high FOC nowadays. I've shot with a lot of great shooters and a lot of great minds that talk about the percentage of FOC you should have to get the best flight.
And FOC stands for?
Front of center. So it's if your arrow is perfectly balanced, you put the arrow on a either on your finger or on some kind of a pivot right in the middle. That's 0 FOC. So if you were to create a higher front of center, you would move it 12% in front of that center point, and that would be 10% FOC. So instead, there's a big push on a lot of people to go really, really high extreme FOC, and I think if that was a case of providing way more accuracy, you'd see some of the best target shooters in the world shooting that. And I'd say for the most part, anyone who's shooting long range, if you're somewhere between the 8 and 14% FOC, you're going to have an arrow that's going to fly pretty good as long as it's spined correctly.
There you go. See, there's a lot more to it than just flinging arrows.
Yeah, you mentioned spine. Is that something a lot of people just overlook? A lot of times they go into their retail store, sporting goods store, it's like, okay, I'm going to get whatever arrow. And to somebody who maybe doesn't pay attention to a lot of this stuff, is that something a lot of guys overlook?
It may not be just overlooking, is not understanding it quite
Okay.
on what it does for a tune of a bow. Something that's too weak is going to end up coming out like a wet noodle, and it's going to be really hard to control and make things consistent. So, and the other thing you have to think about too is a 60-pound bow is not a 60-pound bow. If you get a 60-pound bow that has a 370 foot per second IBO rating, it's not going to tune the same as a 60-pound bow that has a 320 feet per second IBO rating. So you have to kind of really look into the spine charts and see if there's adjusted draw weight conversions or something in that line as far as the manufacturer's recommended specifications. So typically I like to err on the side of being too stiff rather than too weak, because especially with the PSEs, you can tune them well enough that even if it's a little stiff, you're going to be able to make it shoot really, really good.
So if you're on that borderline between...
But always err on the stiff side.
Gotcha. All right. I think, that, like you said, Dan, that covers everything from the tip to the knock, so to speak. So you guys get out there and practice. We're going to continue to stay outside because we're here at Bowfest today and enjoy this sunshine and good weather. So we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Killer Food Plots have been helping property owners for over 20 years create premier whitetail habitat. Whether replenishing your soil with their all-natural organics fusion pellets or planting a premier KFP food plot seed blend to help your deer rebuild their bodies through spring and summer while supplying the much-needed high energy during and after the rut, you can trust that Killer Food Plots family and their products will help your deer achieve their full potential.
All right, back for another segment of the show. Back still outside at Bowfest. I'm telling you, I'm digging the 75 degrees, no humidity, sunshine. I probably got burnt.
Yeah, you're going to tan.
Yeah, okay, I'll tan. Back again, me and Mike sitting here with Dan Jasa. You know what? It's that time of year when we're starting to think hunting season, but it's also that time of year that PSE is coming out with some new target bow. And Dan, we shot one today that simply in a few words that I can put is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we've had such good success with the Evolve series of bows, and people have loved those cam systems so much that I think it was probably in the engineers' back of their mind when they first created the Evolve cam that this may be something we put into a target bow. But the amount of requests we got after people started shooting, like especially the Evolve 35, of can we get a longer one of these, it's the engineers have taken that and made something absolutely amazing.
Now, let me ask you a little bit about that. Now, do you go talk with the engineers out there when you go out there? Do you actually talk with these guys, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've got most all of them on my phone where I can call them and say, hey, I got this idea, and usually it's like, oh, that's a really good idea. Well, let's think about that and see if we can throw that into something for next year, or oh, we tried that, didn't work.
Oh, okay. So you get instant feedback. You know, that's one thing that's awesome when you're dealing with engineers and working on bows, is something that, you know, you're able to talk to them and get feedback on them. So the new bow's coming out. What do we got? I know we shot one today, but there's a few more out there.
Yeah, so we released 3 target bows. We had 2 was supposed to be simultaneous releases. We had a little bit of a delay in Indianapolis with some award ceremonies going on, but we did a pretty much simultaneous release of 3 new target bows this year. One was at the ASA, and the other one was at USA Target Nationals in Indianapolis. So we released the Shootdown, which is the non-shoot-through 37-inch axle, 7-inch brace height, 334 foot per second IBO target bow for this year. And then we also have another one called the Perform and the Perform X and the Perform X 3D, which is our shoot-through version. The 3D version is a 36-inch axle, 6.5-inch brace height, 338 IBO shoot-through riser bow, and the Perform X is a 40-inch axle, 7-inch brace height, 332 IBO target bow.
They keep getting longer and longer.
Oh, if historically, if you go back and look at what we've done on our target bow line for like the last 10 years, we've always had a 37-inch non-shoot-through bow, and then a 36 and a 40-inch shoot-through bow. So we kind of stuck along those same lines just because we can fit so many different people into those bows and give everyone something that fits them. No matter how tall or short they are, we'll be able to get you into one of the higher-end target bows.
So, okay.
Oh, come on, man.
What?
You're going to keep me off mic on that.
Yeah, I'll keep you over here. No, don't give him the mic.
We almost had to get a step stool today for Danny to be able to shoot one to keep the wheels off the ground.
You know, that had
Thanks,
to
Dan, for passing the mic.
Thanks. I knew that was coming. See what happens to the short-haired, red-headed guy when things happen?
Sit back now.
Yeah, you sit there. Okay, so explain, why would I want to use a bow with a shoot-through riser or shooting one with a ledge?
I mean, there's
what would be what would I be looking for if I shot one opposed to the other?
Well, if you're going to have a shoot-through riser, inherently, just because the riser's iron, it's going to be a stiffer riser. So there's going to be less flex whenever you draw it back. It's going to be a more stable platform when you're shooting. And on a non-shoot-through bow, you may have to put a little bit more material to make it stiff enough.
Okay, all right.
And so you can probably make, for the amount of material that's there, you can make the shoot-through a little thinner in places where you can't do it with a non-shoot-through bow.
Okay.
Just because you have to have the amount of material there to make it strong enough.
Now, so that becomes a personal preference then.
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of leaned towards the shoot-through because of the way I grip the bow.
Okay.
It seems like my hand can be a little bit more relaxed, and if a shot's lasting a little bit longer than it should, my hand can stay in a position that I'm going to make a good shot better than with a non-shoot-through bow. But I will say with the Evolve and this new bow, they redesigned a little bit on the grip where I'm feeling really comfortable with the non-shoot-through bows now too. So
well, you're using the Shootdown, didn't you?
Yeah, I shot the Shootdown the last day at U.S. Nationals. That bow's been absolutely unbelievable. I've loved that bow since I picked it up. It just feels like a little bit stiffer Evolve 35 that aims just a little bit better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I know you unveiled them, and we shot them here today at BowFest, and it's an awesome bow. What did you think about it, Mike?
It felt good in my hand, like we were talking about the fit and the feel of it. Being a longer bow, that's really the first bow I've shot that was that long. I always shoot something that's a little shorter axle. To me, it just seemed like the arrow exploded out of the thing. That was the one thing I noticed is just the way it fired. It felt different, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Evolve cam system, and I don't think when the engineers started the project, the first Evolve cam, they realized what kind of speed we were going to get out of it for how smooth the cam is. I mean, I think you guys shot it today at 75% let off, and there's no dump, there's no build-up. It's just a smooth bow, and then we're getting 334 feet a second out of it in IBO ratings.
I tell you what, that Evolve cam system is probably the smoothest cam system I've ever drew back with. You're right. It's just
fluid, and it just amazes me. And now you put it into the target section of it, and you're more of a target shooter than we've ever been. You got us addicted to target shooting now. But anyways,
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. But
Spending more of our money.
yeah, more of our money. How are I'm assuming the pro guys that really shoot it besides yourself, they're really digging this.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Stefan Hansen's an amazing archer, and
that's an understatement.
The small amount of time he's had, that new Perform X, he's got the 40-inch version of it. He went over, I think it was the European Championships, and he threw down ridiculous. I think he shot like a 712 with it the first competitive game he shot with it. I mean, and I think he ended up winning after the head-to-heads and everything too. So I mean, he is. And I know he had to do a few things on the Expression that weren't a factory option because he's got a 27-inch draw length, so he's kind of on the shorter end of the spectrum of that cam. So you put him in that Perform X 3D, and he shot it bone stock, and is putting up the scores that he shot with it. And Scott Starnes ended up taking third at the U.S. Open, first outing with it. Alex Wiffler's been shooting really, really good scores with it. Jack Wallace has been shooting really good scores. I mean, everyone who's picked them up, they're shooting them.
They're shooting the lights out.
They're shooting them bone stock and shooting the lights out of them.
Jeez, oh Pete. So it just amazes me. So you got to get out there. You got to try these bows. And when can they expect them into the pro shops?
So we've been told a November 1 ship date on all the bows that have been in. I know we've been just getting slammed with orders. So the guys that got the orders in first, obviously they're probably gonna see them November 1st or maybe a little bit sooner. Okay,
so as of November 1st, if you need to get out there and try these, get out there. Looks like around the November 1st timeline. Get a hold of your pro shop. Ask them. Depending on where you're looking, they might have an ETA of when they're going to show up in the pro shop. Or like we did at Bowfest today, we shot the shoot down today, and I wish they had the other one there because it would have been nice to shoot that one.
Yeah, the reps I should have the short shoot through here in the next week or so. So the reps will start getting their samples here in the next few weeks. So then as long as you got a good relationship with your pro shop, you can go and say, hey, when's the PSE guy going to be here? Hey, can you get him here as soon as you can? So then people can go out and shoot them that way too.
Absolutely. So, if you guys are looking to shoot some of these when these get into the store, or you got a rep in the area, get to your local PSE dealer, pro shop, and make sure you guys shoot one of these new target bows because they're definitely lights out.
So what do you do when you've completely redefined the way bows are engineered? When you've reached the pinnacle and the band starts playing your victory song, you start a revolution out of thin air. Introducing the all-new PSE Carbon Air, engineered with true carbon technology to be the lightest high-performance bow in the world. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Killer Food Plots have been helping property owners for over 20 years create premier whitetail habitat. Whether replenishing your soil with their all-natural Organics Fusion pellets or planting a premier KFP food plot seed blend to help your deer rebuild their bodies through spring and summer while supplying the much-needed high energy during and after the rut, you can trust that Killer Food Plots family and their products will help your deer achieve their full potential.
Welcome back, everybody. Another segment of the show here, live from Bowfest.
Talking hunting season, archery, but we got something a little different that doesn't have to do... Well, actually, you could take bow on the water.
You could.
In bowfish.
You could take bowfish, yeah, absolutely.
We're taking a little different approach here.
Yes, we're going to take a little different approach. Robin, on our staff, brought this to our attention, and it just so happens that Bill Curtis has shown up, and we're going to interview him and find out a little bit more about Heroes on the Water. So, Bill, if you can, for our listeners, can you give us a rundown of what Heroes on the Water is?
Sure. Heroes on the Water is a nationwide charity. It started in 2007 to take vets and first responders and their families out for a free day kayak fishing. Everything is completely free. We do a light breakfast. We get out on the water usually about 7 a.m., 7:30, fish till about lunchtime, and then we provide lunch, and we kind of wrap up our day from there.
So you take people that actually protect us, protect our freedoms, protect our country, but also help us when we're in need. Like you said, the first responders as well here, even locally. You take care of everything for them and get them out on the water.
Everything's taken care of. They just show up. The kayaks are there. The fishing equipment's there. The food is there. It's a 100% free day for them and their family. They just go online and sign up. We do about 4 to 5 events every summer. And we've got one last event coming up September 10th here at Seven Lakes State Park in Holly. And it's a free day.
That is awesome. Now,
isn't that kind of cool?
It kind of. That is cool. That's way cool. Now, how do you find the people to take out fishing? How do you get in touch with them, or how do they get picked?
We've tried a lot of different ways to get the word out. I just spent some time with the VFW guys here, buying my raffle tickets, talking to them about trying to get more local people. But we have a Facebook page, Southeast Michigan Heroes on the Water, and most of our people we connect with are on Facebook.
Okay.
We've had people travel an hour and a half to one of our events, but we're trying to get more local people out as well.
Okay, so before we came on, we were kind of talking. You said you're the Southeastern Michigan chapter.
Yes.
Is this a nationwide thing, or is it a Michigan thing?
It's a nationwide thing. There's
Okay.
chapters in every state. Since I've been involved, I've connected with people who have a chapter in Maui, a chapter in Washington. There's 3 chapters here in Michigan.
Okay.
And but we're based. My brother and I run this chapter. We're both live in Holly. We do like our events here at Seven Lakes State Park.
Right in our back door. I like that.
Right in our back door.
And probably the best fishing this year in a long time for bass at Seven Lakes State Park.
Damn, we've been missing it. We need to get over there.
We missed it, but Robin didn't.
Okay.
She volunteered there, and Robin's going to scoot over here.
Come on, scoot on over, Robin. Robin, who writes for us here on our staff.
And we're going to find out how was your day with Heroes on the Water?
It was absolutely amazing. First of all, it was a perfect day. It was just like today. There was a nice breeze, and the temperature was great. We had several vets that went out. There was some professional guides that day that had volunteered their time, so that was a very great experience for the veterans that were there to go out with them. And we saw a lot of pictures of some really big fish.
So you said it was really good fishing.
We had a good day. We had a couple of people in our group catch pretty close to 5-pound bass and a lot of smaller ones. And, it does help. We have a couple people on our board that fish for a living. So having some people out there to help guide. But we always try to send out no more than 2 of our heroes to a guide. So you have someone out on the water helping you. And anything from how to paddle the kayak, how to get comfortable in the kayak, to the actual fishing itself. Most of the guides will bring a tackle box full of baits, and they'll change out baits constantly on the water to make sure that, our goal is to get out and have a fun, relaxing day. But at the end of the day, everybody wants to catch fish, so we want to make sure that happens as well.
Absolutely. There's nothing like catching fish. So, okay. So we talked about, what's the website again?
It's the Facebook page is the Southeast Michigan Heroes on the Water.
And you always need volunteers.
We always need volunteers, and we're always looking for participants.
So if you need a hold of you, get to Facebook.
That's the best way.
All right.
Now, you provide all this for these people. Now, obviously, there has to be some money coming from somewhere. How is your organization funded?
Sure, we have. We're constantly raising money. We've got some really good sponsors that have helped us get started. My brother and I started just about a year and a half ago from nothing, and we've put together 12 kayaks, all the equipment to do breakfast and lunch, and we've been really blessed with some really good sponsors.
Now, I think I'm safe in saying this. With the people in the military, does Michigan, do they provide them with the free fishing license, or is that something we were talking about and hasn't been passed yet?
Typically, most of the participants have come with a fishing license. If not, we are able to set them up with a day license.
Okay.
We haven't had to do that. All of our participants so far have come with one.
Okay, that was my next question, because I know like first responders, things like that, they have to purchase, or if they didn't have one, then you'd help them take care of that as well.
Yeah, so what would happen is people would come to our Facebook page, and there'll be a link to go sign up for the event, and they basically will fill out whether they're coming alone, they're bringing their family. We've had people bring their service dogs out on the kayaks.
That is awesome.
Basically, what size life vest they'll need, their level of fishing experience or kayaking experience, and then if they're bringing family members, all the same information. So we want to make sure that we have the right equipment to fit all the people that show up.
Right on. That is way cool.
For the next event coming up September 10th, do you need to be pre-registered, or can you show up last minute?
We like to have everybody pre-registered, but we won't turn anyone away. So we have a set number of kayaks that are owned by the group. All of the people who come and help and volunteer usually bring 1 or 2 extra kayaks. We will find somebody a kayak if they show up, but it's always better to be pre-registered. It helps us plan out the day a little bit better.
Right on. And once again, before we let you go, how can they get in touch with you guys?
Our Facebook page, Southeast Michigan Heroes on the Water, is the best way to reach us.
Okay. All right. So if somebody wants to help, volunteer, has equipment or gear, or wants to donate money, or knows somebody who deserves one of these fishing trips, get in touch with you that way.
Please. All of that information is on the Facebook page. It's the same form for volunteers that want to volunteer. Just like a participant, they would go in and check what do I want to volunteer to help serve food? Do I want to show up with kayaks and be a guide? All of that information is on the Facebook page.
Right on. That is awesome. So there you go, folks. If you want to help, you want to donate, you got
or if
gear,
you know somebody that's a hero,
get in touch with them. Before we go to the break here, Robin, talk a little bit about your experience out there and what you got out of that for being out there and being part of this.
It's no secret from my stories that my dad is a veteran, and he was in the Korean conflict, and I just think that it's very important for my daughter and I to give back in his honor and in his memory. And it really was a very emotional, day that day. Watching them come in. There's not much that gets a 13-year-old up on a Saturday morning at 5 o'clock. But she was absolutely excited to be a part of this and to help check everybody in and, and hear how they contributed to our country, and then have lunch with them. It was just a very rewarding experience, and there's nothing like standing around. It's kind of like this morning when we were doing our opening ceremony with the veterans. There's nothing like standing there and saying the pledge with America's heroes. Absolutely nothing like it. They're the reason that we are free today.
Absolutely. We've talked about this many times on the show, and without these people out there busting their hump, giving their lives in some cases, and not only that, the families that support them while they're out there, that are back here on the homeland, and their kids. It's not just the man or woman who serves in whatever capacity; it's also their family that makes that huge sacrifice as well.
Right. Well, and for us, because also they support first responders. That's very important to us because I come from a generation of firefighters. My dad was a firefighter. My cousin was a firefighter. My grandfather was a firefighter. So something that, it takes a very special person to walk in those shoes and to put on those boots every day. And I can't thank them enough. And this is just one way of doing it.
One way of giving back and putting the heroes on the water.
I shoot PSE because I like one pin to 40 yards.
I shoot PSE for the perfect combination of feel and performance.
I shoot PSE because you can shoot lighter poundage and increase arrow speed.
I shoot PSE for the fastest bows on the planet.
I shoot PSE because my livelihood depends on my bow.
I shoot PSE because better engineering makes a better bow.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE. I shoot PSE.
Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Killer Food Plots have been helping property owners for over 20 years create premier whitetail habitat. Whether replenishing your soil with their all-natural Organics Fusion pellets or planting a premier KFP food plot seed blend to help your deer rebuild their bodies through spring and summer while supplying the much needed high energy during and after the rut, you can trust that Killer Food Plots family and their products will help your deer achieve their full potential.
I hear a bee buzzing in my ear as we sit out on the UNJ studio deck. We are back from a break, but we're live, and I'm about to get stung. There he is over there.
We hope not, because I'm out of here.
Right? Yeah. But some great tips from Dan.
Great tips from Dan about arrows,
about gear and how to practice,
how to pick a spot. Excellent segment on the heroes on the water.
Absolutely. You know, somebody giving them their time, helping out those who protect us and help us.
Right, exactly. And you know what? Stay tuned for more on that, because that was really cool to listen to that, and we'll find out more. The one event they got, the last event here in September, and then we'll probably talk to them more about what they're going to have for the new year.
Yeah, actually,
see if we can't help them out a little bit.
By the time you listen to this show on Labor Day, that last event is going to be this following weekend.
Right, the 10th.
Yeah. So if you're listening to the show Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, you happen to be in the area and you want to go see what it's like or help out, get in touch with them or go over to Seven Lakes State Park.
If you're a first responder or someone, want to get out on the water, go to their Facebook page, Heroes on the Water, Southeast Michigan chapter.
Yep.
And give them a like and get some more information there.
Right on. So now, we've been talking about getting ready for season. Dan talked about how he practiced. What is Dan DeFall's method of practice, getting ready for bow season, leading into season? What do you do?
Well, the first thing I do is I hide from Dan Jasa. Because every time I touched my bow at Bowfest, he shook his head and it kind of worried me.
From getting it out of the case?
Pretty much so.
No, you're unstrapping it wrong from the case.
It might as well have been, because it's like ever since we went and shot that tournament, I'm under his tutelage now.
Okay.
And it's like, oh boy. So anyways, what I practice on doing, we talked about practicing, and he did a paper bag thing, which was kind of really cool.
Uh-huh.
I might try that, because I've got those bag targets like you have here.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure I'll be in a ground blind, but I might be in a tree stand as well. I just got a two-man tree stand at home.
Okay.
So I might be, if I run away, it's that bee.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad he left my ear alone. Now he's messing with your arrows.
But I might try that trick with the bags. That is a really cool trick. And my plan is to practice from an elevated stand. And we do have that tree stand set up at my house where my plan is I've got several bags, and I'm just going to walk through the woods and just drop them.
Okay.
And then what I plan on doing is go back to the tree, climb up in the tree, sit, and it may be the first time I'll shoot at them, one arrow each, and see how I do. Or I might do like we've talked about in previously episodes. Maybe that tree is closest to the bag. Maybe range that tree and then go from there. Because I guess my thought is to take it as if I was getting in the tree stand in the dark for the very first time, and I don't have time to range it.
Right, and you got a buck walk out right at first shooting light.
Right. I hope to have the tree stand up prior to then, where I can sit down and go, okay, that tree, and start doing that. But let's go cold turkey here, and then just start shooting and see how I do. Trying to make see if picking out that tree or that bag is the closest. Kind of like what we did with the dots, right?
Right.
We don't know. We had an idea of a distance, but this way it'll be totally cold, and I'll go from there.
Okay, right on.
So, what about you?
I shoot, different distances. That's the thing I've been really working on this summer, and I used to do that pretty religiously. But then when everything happened here with all the calamity in 2013, I didn't bow hunt that year, and I don't think I even bow hunted in 14. So last year and the year before is really the first time I've kind of got back in the tree stand, got back in the saddle, and this year I'm working on judging distances. That's my big thing of being able to look at something and go, okay, that's 30 yards, or that's 40, or that's 20. And something interesting that Dan said yesterday when we were talking to him, of angle compensation, he said realistically, unless you're shooting at very steep angles and down a mountainside or whatever, he said, generally, you're talking about 10-12% somewhere in that area of compensation distance. He said, so a 20-yard shot, he said, you're only talking about 2 yards.
Right.
He says, so you're still in the zone.
Yep.
Obviously that grows greater the further out you go.
Right, because the zone we're talking on a white-tailed deer is, we always talk about being able to hit that 8-inch pie plate.
Yep.
Right.
The heart and the lungs. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. As it starts to get a little cooler, I might throw the gear on that I hunt out of.
I'm definitely thinking about that. Putting the gear on with the tree harness, kind of trying to do some different things. What ifs?
Right.
Not just having the typical to the right off the perfect side. Maybe having to stand up and kind of turn my body.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, just like you kind of alluded to that with using the gear, also trying to mentally put you in that situation of not just pulling back, shooting at the bag, thinking it's a deer, and going through the mental steps of going slow.
Yeah.
Taking your time.
Yep. Doing a slow pickup of the bow from a resting position to an extended front arm, and then a slow draw back.
And hopefully Dan doesn't see me, and then he'll yell at me. But that's another story.
Executing a shot,
right?
And
then
the mental game.
That mental game, which I've been fighting this whole summer because of Dan, and it's now. I think I'm getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But he's helped so much in this past couple months. But I think that's what I'm looking for in September before October here. Getting up in the tree, or maybe if I'm going to be hunting from the ground blind. I'll might pull the ground blind out, set it up, and shoot from that as well.
Yeah. Get used to shooting out of a blind, figuring out, how high do I have to set? How much can I raise up my bow up before I hit the ceiling and make a noise? Things of that nature.
Right, exactly. Because we're both shooting new evolves, and to tell you the truth, I've never shot it out of the ground blind. So that's one thing we can do also is I'm going to get out my pop-up blind that I use typically up north, and I'm going to shoot out of that because I don't know, the height of it and the windows, how they got to be ready, or what chair to use. Maybe I got to use a different chair. I did buy new chairs this year that I wanted to try, but it's like
test drive it.
Test drive it before you walk out in the middle of the woods and you plop it down and you go out there and it's dark and go.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Right, exactly.
I wish I'd have known.
There's nothing worse than this. Right?
Right.
Because of the wrong water bottle that you picked up.
Yeah.
And that's another good thing that I'm thinking about doing is getting a new water bottle.
I got one from Cabela's, man.
You got the Cabela's one.
Yep, it's a metal one with a twist top off.
Right.
And
you don't get this.
Right. It holds probably about 40 ounces of water, I guess, something like that.
There you go.
No, I take it back. No, it doesn't. It holds 22 and a half ounces. I do remember because we had a drinking challenge at work, health kick thing, and I had to drink so many of those, and I had to know how much water.
Oh, okay, so you measured it.
Yeah, so,
But so that's kind of the plan here as we get into September and
running through your gear.
Running through the gear, running through everything. Hopefully get a little small game in.
Yeah. Have you ever shot from a raised platform before? Before season?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one thing I try to do.
Used to get up on the roof of the house.
Okay. I do it here now because our antenna that we used to have, I had a hang-on stand strapped to our tower antenna.
Oh, okay.
The little triangle pole that went up the side of the house.
You put a hang on there.
Yeah, it stayed there for years, and that's where I'd practice from. And I'd put my bag under the tree that's no longer there from the tornado. I'd set the bag back, and I'd put it and try to shoot between a tight group of limbs or something like that to mimic those tight shots.
Right, exactly. So yeah, no, I have done that before. Whether it be the roof of the house or even just off of a ladder.
Right.
But no, definitely trying to get into the mode here of test drive and everything before we try to figure out it in October and have it wrong.
Right. The other thing I would kind of suggest doing is, probably like a tip for somebody, especially if you're having trouble judging distances. If you got a rangefinder with you, carry it with you. Carry it with you 24/7. Put it in your car. Take it to work with you. And as you're on break or walking down the hall at work or whatever, just like, okay, from over here to that door over there, how far is that? I think that's probably 15 yards. And range it and see how close you are. Start playing those mental games in your head of judging distance, because we've said it on the show here before many times. Judging distance is one of the hardest things that to do in the field, and people make the most mistakes on.
Well, not only judging distances, but judging distance under pressure.
Well, I did it this year with the turkey. I thought he was 40 yards. He was 50.
There you go.
You know, it was an uphill shot, and I rolled him, but didn't kill him.
Right. So, definitely need to get out there, do some practicing. Kind of getting the itch now. The bucks in the backyard are starting to get a little frisky with each other. Deb saw them, the two bigger bucks that we have in the backyard. We're starting to kind of put their heads together and starting to
scratching their antlers a little.
Yeah, they're starting to get at the itch. So it's like, all right. And I guess one of them went up to the one of the trees, one of the bushes, and started kind of just messing around a little bit. So it's getting close.
Yeah. Did you happen to see the video last week or week before last with the guys at a school? And I can't remember where it was at. I think it was in maybe North or South Carolina. And I think it was football practice. This buck come out of the woods, and it's one that people around the area have been feeding. But it was the thing was, we ran the story at our station. They called it a 6-point, but they forgot that the two broad tines count.
Oh,
it was an 8-point. I'm like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. But this buck come out, and it is a 1.5-year-old buck, and he let him scratch him and pet him a little bit, and then all of a sudden he took his antlers down and started rubbing on his leg like it was a tree. And he's like, having to push him away a little bit. He's like, man, can you believe that, an animal will come out and do something like that? I'm thinking, yeah, you better watch out. If he comes a little higher with that horn there, he might get you.
That's going to hurt.
Yeah.
You'll be like in the running of the bulls.
Yeah. So, but I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's getting to be that time of the year, man. It's like right now, what do you think the temperature is? 70 degrees?
I think it's 72? About 70 degrees. If it's 75, I'd say that's high. I'd say it's between 70, 73.
It's beautiful out. It's we've had those mornings that was 48, 49 degrees. My right index finger starts twitching, it's getting to be that time of the year where I'm getting fired up.
You're going to start, looking at this pool, thinking about putting it away.
Oh, I've already thought about putting it away. I've actually only been in the pool one time this year.
Yeah, see?
That's my wife's pride and joy. She's the one that takes care of it, and she's been in it all year. But it won't be long. We just talked about it today. It's time to put summer away. Unfortunately, kids are going back to school.
You took pictures in Flint there of trees turning.
Trees are starting to turn already. Maple trees. There were small maple trees, but they're already turning red. Matter of fact, the tree at the end of my driveway is starting to change.
And you can see out your backyard. I see yellow leaves going on. And
Yeah. Right over there. I think that's a black walnut tree. Yep, they're starting to turn yellow.
Starting to turn yellow. And I see that within my backyard as well, facing the woods. Yeah. I'll see that hue of yellow start to appear. And I'm ready.
It is that time of year. So I'll tell you what, we're going to wrap up the show. We hope everybody had a great and wonderful Labor Day weekend. I hope you got out and enjoyed the outdoors. Hope you made it back home safely. And it's just a great time to be outside. This next weekend, Saturday, I'll be down at Cabela's. And actually, I don't know if I'm going to be at Dundee or Chesterfield yet. I just got an email. So I'm working for Vortex Optics, but I don't know which store I'll be at.
Where you'll be for Vortex?
I'll be at one or the other. So I don't know. I'll Facebook and let everybody know.
There you go.
We'll see what happens. But have you got plans for this coming weekend?
For this coming weekend, which is
weekend after Labor Day. We're pre-recording. Don't mean to confuse you.
Woods and Water weekend.
That's right. You'll be over there.
I think I'm going to head over there and see if I can't find anybody that we know and kind of go bug them. And I know Jim Beasley will be there.
Okay.
I do believe. Right. So, I think a Woods and Water weekend. Get outdoors. And
the weekend after that, small game will be open.
It will be.
Gosh. Where's the time went?
Well, that's what we say.
It flies by so quick.
I you know what? I tell you, September to December 31st always flies by.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, folks. That's going to do it for this pre-recorded edition of our Labor Day episode. Sorry we didn't live stream the event, but it's kind of hard to live stream when you're not live
there.
when you pre-record. So,
right.
If you're out in the water or in the woods, as we always say, shoot straight, be safe. We'll talk to you again next week.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast was brought to you by PSE Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Killer Food Plots,
Cabela's,
Spot Shooters,
Antler Action,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls, and
Badass Slingshots.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.